Hello, this is Alex Keys.
All right. I accidentally deleted the intro song, so it didn't actually play. But so I was trying to download it, but
Nice.
it wouldn't
Excellent.
work. It wouldn't work. So just imagine
Amazing.
you heard the song. I just put it was about to begin in silence. You know, a moment of silence for Deadspin. That's really what it was. It was
That's right.
totally
Wow, that's
planned.
really that's
totally
that's
planned.
profound.
Yeah.
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 Kratom for Deadspin.
Crate up for Deadspin. Yeah, we're here. We're here finally. We missed last week. I'm back. I feel much better. I was having a horrible flu because I didn't get my flu shot.
Oh no.
Year. Yeah.
Are you talking like baseball flu or real flu? Did you just
I got the flu, baby.
Las Vegas flu or
no?
Did you have the South Beach flu?
I didn't have what Lauren had. I did not have where Lauren was. I guess she went out and checked out the parties. Which Nate, did you go out to anything for the Nats? Did you go out and see the riding, the fun to be had?
I did not. We had a trip to Shenandoah, and I did that instead. And we tend to be kind of
partying in Shenandoah.
I was partying on top of Old Rag. It was great. No, Nats fans. I mean, okay. Pros and cons. Pros, they boo the president because they know all about politics. They boo the president. Cons, they are nerds. So, when the Caps won, I did go on the streets for an hour or two, and there was no rioting to be had. There was very little overturning of things, and so I was like, this one, whatever. I'm going to go to Shenandoah.
That's fair.
Yeah. It was, I've never really been to one. I went to one sort of when I grew up in Bloomington. They there's a college there. There's like a small it's Illinois State. Pretty small college. Yeah, not small, but not very large. It's like 20,000 kids. But when the White Sox won, yeah, I guess okay. When the White Sox won, there was like a pretty significant riot. Like they flipped like 3 cop cars and shit. But
holy shit!
I wasn't there for the flipping and stuff. I walked down the street with people because I was 14, 15. So, but
you weren't flipping cars when you were 14 or 15.
I'm gonna be honest. As badly as I want to say yes, and really, everyone would know I was lying. So,
not all of us can be Brett Payne.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Before we get too far, I want to introduce Trevor. You guys might know Trevor Hagelbahn on Twitter, the author of probably the 2 greatest sports tweets ever written.
That's
why we had to have you.
You're just gonna say that. Next time you have Roth on, you're just gonna say that about him too.
Roth did not compose the skip or the I'm sensitive to the Holocaust.
But we're joined by the Stephen A. Fave Star bait.
Yeah.
An unholy bond.
That's right. That's absolutely correct. Yes. No, thank you. Thanks for having me. No, this is cool. Like I it's been a while. I get to wear my Philly shirt, which is not a lot of reasons to wear my Philly shirt these days. Because everyone just wants to forget about that season.
Was a pretty weird one.
Bryce Harper's number one who wants to forget that season.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, he seems to like Philadelphia, and I don't blame him. Like, I think the one thing that people are leaving out with those, like, oh, he left the Nats and they won the World Series or whatever. Like, yeah, I'm sure that sucks, but like, also the Lerners gave him a contract that was like backdated to 2066 or something. Like, dude made he was getting like $1 million, like, we'll pay you, inflation adjusted $10 million in 2066. It's like a nonsense
Insert
contract.
the Woody Harrelson crying into the dollar bill skiff.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They sat him down and said, "Have you ever heard of a man named Bobby Bonilla? We're gonna give you that kind of deal."
But yeah, no, it's it's weird. I was actually looking at the MLB app because my son had my phone. He's 1, he doesn't know what he's opening, and he opened that, and it was like, you're the top, what was it, like the top most untradeable players, like the teams couldn't live without him, kind of thing. And of course for the White Sox it was Eloy. But I think you can, and it said like it's a good sign for the White Sox because like they have a lot of players that could go on this list, and it's like, oh yeah, cool. Like, I like the White Sox. I'm happy about that. Like, they're definitely the Chicago team I like the most. That's cool. And even then even
Trevor coming on to play the hits, he's just buttering us up.
No, it's true. I have a National League team. I'm not going to have another one of those. I'm not going to be a Cubs fan. But like the Phillies one was Bryce Harper. Everyone else had like great like prospects and stuff. And I mean, like, they weren't wrong. Their point was like, you can't trade the contract even if you wanted to, but he's also the cornerstone of that whole thing, and he had a good year. And it's like, all right. But like, man, that sucks. Like, everyone has these young all-stars and like very cool prospects and stuff, and then it's like, oh yeah, the Phillies, they can't trade their really expensive guy. Boy,
it really sucks. We're like one of the top 3 players in baseball. It's just like the fucking worst, man. We have to have him for the next 9 years.
I am a Bryce Harper fan. I'm happy he's in Philly. But yeah, like I said, I haven't had a lot of reasons to wear this shirt in a while, so it was nice to be on a baseball podcast to be like, oh yeah, cool. Like, I can go wear this.
I do gotta say, man, I personally I am very anti Bryce Harper. But okay. I'm very pro Philadelphia Phillies. So
okay. That's cool. That is uncommon to be pro Phillies as opposed to pro Harper. I think. I feel like most people are pro Harper and anti Phillies.
I definitely like the Phillies. Sure I went on a couple of anti Harper tirades earlier in the year on the podcast.
Wow.
I have fond formative memories of Jim Tomei Phillies era, just mashing the hell out of it.
The Phillies are they're the most losing team in professional sports, right? Like, they have lost the most games in all of professional sports. So I've always like I've always felt respected their fans. Like, that's a lot to put up with.
I mean, as a White Sox fan.
Yeah. I mean,
we've definitely, part of it is that we've been around so long, and part of it is because, I mean, there are other teams. The Cubs have been around that long, pretty much. I think the Phillies have like 10 years on the Cubs, maybe. Mm-hmm. So like, it's not all that explanation. It's also that they're just a terrible team. Yeah. I do a podcast with Justin Kluge called the Dirty Inning. That is, I don't know if it's as listened to as No Cartridge, but it may or may not be. I'm not really good at metrics, but we just like go over a specific inning in any given game, and it's always a bad one. Like, I'd say like three or four will be a game the Phillies win, like just to make people feel a little better. But I got like there's so many. Like we just keep plumbing the depths, and it's like, man, you don't really think about what 10,000 losses means until you're like looking up games in 1912 and being like, man, like, High Sox Peterson sure ate at this game. Like,
oh, wait, you mean they literally lost like more games than?
Yes, they have the most losses in professional sports.
Holy shit, I did not know that.
Yeah, so like empirically watching them is like one of the roughest fandoms like in all of sports.
I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know if they're by percentage. I don't think it's by percentage. I think it's by sheer volume. But
It is by sheer volume.
Yeah.
And like the weird thing about it was people were like sad about it when it happened. When they hit 10,000, they were like, this is a day of sadness. Like, you know, the Phillies have let us down. And man, this is really funny. It's really funny to me.
Like, you haven't gotten used to it by now? It's only happened 10,000 times.
Yeah, like, calm down.
I remember in 1871 when they lost their first game. I'll never forget it.
I mean, you guys do have a World Series win, though, within the last 15 years or so.
Well,
yeah,
so
I'll take it. And they were in the World Series the next year. I was watching for that. I actually had my one good experience with my one sort of normal experience with a cop in the 2009 series. He arrested me and asked where I was going, and I said I was getting this burrito. And I'm just kidding. That's Nate Silver's story. I was at a Halloween party, and like it was at our house, and these cops came by because like one of the people had parked on the lawn, and our landlord was like, what is this person doing parked on the lawn? Called the cops, and the cops came in, and they were like, I just wanted to check, make sure everything's okay. And they were just talking to everyone, telling people to move their cars, whatever. And the one just peeked his head in my apartment, was like, hey man, what's the score? It was the middle of the game, and I was like, oh, it's like the fourth inning, they're winning. He's like, oh man. And it was just these local cops who clearly didn't want to be there on the beat at that night, and we just like stood in the room and watched TV for like 2 seconds before leaving.
Yeah, I will say
incompetent cops are the ones I like.
And then killed your dog, but then
then they shot my dog. Yeah,
I will.
Shot the one black person at the party.
I know. It was like, I mean, it was like in they were also like super country Sellersville cops, and I mean, they probably were huge racists. I mean, I won't sugarcoat that. But like my one good experience where I didn't come out feeling like furiously angry. Instead, just like kind of nonplussed.
That's good.
Yeah,
sports can cross all barriers. It can.
Not really.
No, they can still get fucked. Yeah. Well,
it's still a cab.
Well, yeah. So speaking of World Championships, we wanted to talk a little Nats. I made a little special video about the Nats.
Speaking of cops.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess why don't we only discuss our feelings going into the World Series before the twist? We won't discuss the twist because apparently not everybody knows the twist yet. So, I mean, did you guys? Were you excited for the Nats? Like, did you think it was a good win? I didn't really watch any of the games, really, to be honest, because I've kind of gotten real burnt out on baseball, and I didn't. Moving to the East Coast has killed my ability to watch any sports because I was basically like, I don't want to be up at 1 a.m. watching a game between two teams I don't really care about.
That's fair.
Yeah.
For me, it was the opposite. This is actually the first baseball playoffs that I've watched in mostly in its entirety in like 10 years or so. Is it around 10 years? Yeah. No, dude, I was extremely excited. I was really excited once the Astros organization really came out hardcore that they were complete trash.
See, I've almost forgotten this now because of the twist. I completely forgot that the Astros had made themselves look like total assholes.
It was great to have a villain. You know, it was great to be like.
See, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Like that's why I liked it so much, because I didn't know who to root for, because I like a lot of Astros, I like a lot of the Nationals players. So I was kind of like on the fence, 50-50. But then once that happened, it was like, boom. I know exactly who to hate. I know who I like. Juan Soto just kept bursting on the scene with that Soto shuffle every pitch. Like dude, just like.
Now that's part of your routine, right? You were saying you like.
That's right.
You find it like it works in everyday life.
That's right. I mean, I wake up in the morning. Some people do yoga. They have coffee. I do the Soto shuffle in the mirror. I square up in the mirror, just shuffle around, grab my crotch. And, yeah.
You ready to just hit the day? Just hit the day.
Yeah. But I was really excited about the Nationals winning. Super excited about that.
I was conflicted because they're a divisional rival to the Phillies, but only a little bit. I think like the only divisional rival I really don't want to see win is the Braves. I really don't like the Braves. Like that's the one team that I'm just like been brought up not to like.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, like the others, the Marlins are such like a sad sack most years. Same with the Mets. The Mets are just like the dark mirror of the Phillies. We're just both like extremely depressing teams. The Braves are different. Like the Braves, but like the Nats are like, they had the thing where it was like, okay, they were the Nationals, they were just like a laughing stock, and now they can win. And yeah, I mean, once the Astros became the Astros of this year, I mean, I was Nationals all the way. It was cool that I went to Game 7. I mean, I'm usually not a person that says that. Usually I have my team I'm rooting for and I hope they win in 4. But it was cool I mean, this was a cool series in a lot of ways. Like every game seemed to have like both teams light hitting catchers just hitting moonshots for some reason. The weird like different ball. It was weird.
And no road team has ever won 6 road games in a row. Certainly not 7. That's very interesting.
Yeah. In any sport, I read like a 7-game series in any sport. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's really funny you say that because now I'm on the East Coast. I now have friends who are fans of every NL East team, basically, and they are all united around fuck the Braves. They're all it's like the universal thing.
Well, I mean, you win like 15 titles in a row. Like, I mean, it's basically like the AFC East is all in a pact together to take out the Braves or die trying.
And you win 15 times in a row, and you only get 1 World Series out of it. At least cash it in. At least cash in more often. I was very happy. I was very happy for the Nats. I think they're all great guys. Super happy for this is pre
twist
White House thing.
No, twist. Just twist. You can't say what the twist is.
No, I mean I was just happy for all of my favorite players. Scherzer, Kurt Suzuki, Ryan Zimmerman, all my favorite guys. I mean, this is pre today, so I'm just saying what my thoughts were originally with your question.
Did Scherzer do a thing too?
He just went. So why don't we unveil a twist?
Oh, okay.
You guys got your movies queued up? I
have. So is there a movie too? I'm gonna break kayfabe here.
It should be in the.
I have
chat.
So I have the one link. I have the.
Okay.
I got it. Yes. Okay. I thought it was in the.
Okay. So I'm gonna switch it over, and hopefully this doesn't get us taken off of YouTube immediately when it hears the music. But all right. If you guys want to hit play right now. Oh no, what could it be?
Homer. What could go wrong?
By Kurt Suzuki. Where's Kurt? Come on, say a couple words. Come on.
I love you all.
Yeah,
I love you all.
I should have grabbed it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's not just a hug. That was a straight like.
It's so awkward. Like in the picture, it doesn't look quite as bad in that in like fast time, but yeah, it was really awkward.
No, it looks really bad. Like it looks like it's like a wind beneath my wings sort of thing. So bad.
I love to hug my big, strong boys. They're so strong.
Oh,
so tight and big.
I love like Kurt Suzuki like existing in the world is so weird to me because like in the first fantasy league I ever played in was in like 2009, maybe 2010, maybe a little later, maybe it was like 2013.
Yeah.
But in any case, he was still in the A's at that point, and it was like after his one year where he like hit 15 home runs, had like a 400 on base, like he was pretty good.
Dope.
And it was like a pretty bad year for catchers. So I put him really high in my listings because I had no idea how fantasy worked. I drafted him 3rd round, after drafting like another catcher in the first because I did auto draft for the first 3 rounds. And I was like, oh, this sucks. So every time I see Kurt Suzuki, I'm like, man, just go away, dude. Like, leave me be.
To be completely honest, I didn't really realize Kurt Suzuki was in the league until the World Series. Still, like,
yeah, that's fair.
Barely.
I mean, he's been pretty bad for like a bit, essentially since the year you drafted him. Because
I ruined his career by drafting him.
He was an all-star, right? He was an all-star like 1 year, I think.
He was like.
I mean, he was
when
really
he was
good.
with the.
He was on the Mariners too before that, right? I think it was with the Mariners. I'll look it up, but yeah. Kurt Suzuki. Okay, but yeah, I didn't think. Okay, so my initial thoughts were, dude, when I saw this, like people were sharing this in chats, I thought it was photoshopped. Like, I legitimately didn't think it was real. Because the hat, dude, the hat is like, who let him put that on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because even the fucking Pats, when they went to the World Series, and were like Gronk was like hamming it up with like fucking Sean Spicer, and like, you know, best friend of Trump, Tom Brady, you know, is like shaking his hand and telling him what a great job he's doing. And like, nobody put the hat on. Like, the hat.
Yeah, the hat's pretty intense. Do you think so I know like there's like, so Kurt Suzuki's is Kurt Suzuki he's a Japanese, obviously he's Japanese, but like he's a Japanese player, right? Like he came from the MPB.
No, he was born in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Oh, he's born in Hawaii. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought he was
Were you hoping that
transfer
like,
over.
Didn't quite understand English enough to.
No, I was hoping. No. It wasn't that. It wasn't a language thing. It was like I know a lot of Japanese players that come over. That would be funny. That like came over from the MPB. Like they'll do stuff that like is excessively American to like endear themselves with the fan base.
Right.
Like you know, like I'm trying to think of a good example.
Nothing like this. Nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. No, but like, no, for sure. Like it's like, but like, yeah, it's like it's I thought maybe that was it. Like maybe it was like sort of shtick with the way he was looking. Yeah, because he just said, "I love you all, goodbye," and I just thought like maybe that's all he has to say. Like maybe it's just but it's not. I mean, like you watch that video and he's clearly doing a MAGA thing. Like it's,
definitely.
You think so? I mean, could it not just be stupidity? I think he definitely is a MAGA guy.
No, I think
he's born in Hawaii. Then he's American.
Yeah, he knows the politics.
Yeah,
that's some intentional shit. Like,
he's over.
I didn't know anything about his family, but I looked it up, and he's a 4th generation American, basically from Japanese ancestors, and so I don't know anything about his family, but like the potential for them to hypothetically have been in internment camps in World War II is pretty decently high. So I thought that was a nice little. When I looked at his Wikipedia, I was like, "Oh, you've been here." That's no good.
That's real dark.
You need to know better.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I legitimately thought it was Photoshop. Like the Zimmerman thing, like Zimmerman like gave Trump like a jersey with 45 on the back. As people were saying, it was a white nationalist jersey, so everyone was calling it a white nationalist jersey. but
someone went to Ryan Zimmerman's Wikipedia, and before it said he's known as Mr. Nationals because he played there for his entire career, and someone changed it to he's known as Mr. Nationalist.
Oh my god,
that's pretty good.
But yeah, he kind of just was like, "Oh, thank you, Mr. Trump, for keeping us safe," like all that kind of shit. And like that was like less shocking than the hat. Like the hat is just, I still can't. Like I could get it. It just like in my brain was just like, no, that's not real. That's not real. It can't be real.
I see what you're saying about the hat, and I agree. For as far as shock value goes, that was top of the line. However, did you guys hear the shakiness in Ryan Zimmerman's voice? The dude was about to cry talking about America and Trump. Like his voice is literally shaking. Like you could see his eyes welling up with tears. that to me that just epitomizes this entire experience for me.
That's really Brian Zimmerman is literally the guy that Trump always talks about. That is that's like coming up to him, a real tough motorcycle guy, and crying and saying like, "Hey, the real tough guy, come up to me, big guys, big strong guys, come up to me," and say, like, like Brian Zimmerman's literally that guy. He has tears in his eyes. He's like, "Mr. Trump, thank you for saving."
Maybe he just thought it was actually Ryan Klesko. Like he just confused the two of them. Like big strong guy, Ryan Klesko, huge man.
If the Democrats want to take me on, and Nancy Pelosi, nasty woman, nasty woman. If she wants to take me on, I have baseball players for Trump. I have bikers for Trump. I have baseball players for Trump. They're so good. They're so big.
So kind of before we stick a pin in this one, we were kind of talking about it before, but I want to say, like, the funniest part is, how do you think this will affect Trump's tour of going to sporting events after he got booed at the World Series in an attempt to get a hearty cheer, because he is now going to an Alabama LSU game in Tuscaloosa after he got booed by the UFC crowd. So he's clearly been like, someone needs to find a crowd. They need to find the crowd for me. Like, this is not good.
I love that he's going to these battleground states, though. I mean, like, I don't want him to win, but it's like, it's as a strategy kind of thing. It's really great. Like, it's gonna be tough for him to win Alabama and Louisiana, and he's just already going there to campaign. It's pretty cool.
Sure.
I think honestly, like, I don't know. Like, I think it's just gonna be like, what he's gonna do is he's gonna draw a dichotomy now and say, like, yeah, like, these fans are all liberals, but like the people who actually know the game and are tough guys who play the game, they love Trump. They love Trump. And like, that's going to be his line. If he gets booed there, he's just going to be like, I don't get it. They don't get it. The people on the front lines, they love Trump.
Yeah, I was wondering honestly with I mean, like, the funniest part about this trip to me, going the way that it did, was I kind of for a second thought like the Nationals were gonna like get enough guys to start saying I'm not going, that Trump cancels the trip like he does most of the time.
Who did he do that with the Warriors?
The Warriors, yeah, the Warriors and the Eagles. He tried to claim that he did it to the Eagles, but they all stiffed him openly. So
I should know that. I like the White House visit was like the last thing on my mind when the Eagles won. Mostly it was just like utter shock.
That guy that ate poop because they won.
Absolute hero. You mean our mayor?
Yeah, so I kind of thought that they were gonna get enough because like Doolittle came out pretty quick, and like I had a feeling that maybe Doolittle had been there long enough that maybe he'd get enough guys, and they had like I kind of thought maybe Soto might do something, but like obviously he's young, and I think somebody got in his ear and made him go.
That's tough. First-year player, and like, I mean, I don't know, like that's hard. Good.
Oh, good.
No, I was just gonna say, and I think like based on what I know about Doolittle, I think Doolittle's great. Like I'm a big fan, but like also he's definitely like known in the clubhouse as the weird liberal guy. Like 100%, he's known as like the dude who has liberal ideas, and like, oh, that's just Sean. Like, don't get on his bad side. Like I'm sure people respect him as a leader, but not politically.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, I do gotta say, I know we're probably just making up excuses for Juan Soto because we love him and we can't, we don't want to throw him under the bus. But we also got to remember the dude has a lot of heat going, a lot of heat for that Soto shuffle, and I think that may have played a part in it too. Like he's already got heat, he's already a heel in some ways, and
Ooh, okay, you think he's like solidifying the brand?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the ultimate excuse.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, once he gets the contract in 5 or 6 years, once he gets his contract, how is he going to respond then? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really good question. Actually, I know it's a joke question, but it's also like a super good question. Like, I think once he gets that contract, if they win again, is he gonna go? Like I don't know, man. Like I think like once he's paid, he may change, because not in like the he got paid and now he doesn't try kind of thing. That's all garbage. But like
literally,
you know, if you have to like if you're struggling forever and like Soto wasn't drafted by the Nats, right?
He was signed internationally, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you get signed by a like seriously internationally, your money is like nothing. Like it's just like the international signing rules are just such a nightmare. Like if I was Juan Soto, I would be like, keep my head down until I get paid like generational money so I can like change things for my whole family, and then maybe like I'll be myself.
Right.
The struggle thing is a good point. So where exactly is Soto from?
The DR.
Well, I mean, like that might be a like a Occam's razor easiest sort of thing. Is like this dude's been grinding since he was probably 12 or 13 years old, and he reached the pinnacle, and he's like, you know what? I get it. He probably doesn't like Trump, but he's like, I'm gonna go to the fucking White House. Like this is a really cool thing for me, and I've been eating shit for 8-9 years to try and get to this point, and I'm gonna have a nice thing. So I'm going. Like that could probably be a thing too.
You could make a case that it could quite literally be $300 or $400 million on the line for Soto just making this one little decision, because especially now that we know, especially in baseball, the way that collusion works. We saw it last year. I think we saw it probably the year before. Might see it again this year. Like that. I mean, that could definitely be a thing where in 5 years, he's looking at the same sort of thing where there's collusion against him and it costs him 100 or 200 million.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Josh Rosen in the NFL. Like obviously Rosen is the obvious example is Cap. But that's sort of like an obvious one. Like he lost millions because he made an ethical choice. But like you look at someone like even like Josh Rosen, who has been buried a lot, has like quarterback skills, and probably should be considered by more teams except the Dolphins. And one of the big knocks against him was that like he was an intellectual and believed in climate change. And like that's for real. Like that was like one of the things that came out. He's like, he might be too smart to play quarterback, kind of thing. So like that does happen. Like like
might be too smart to play quarterback in Miami, because they're like, dude, if you believe in climate change, I'm not sure you're a good long-term fit here, because we might have exist.
He's just like, well, you got to check out these blueprints I wrote up for this underwater stadium. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be big. But yeah, no, I mean, like, I get it. No, I mean, I get it though, because like the little things are starting to make collusion happen. Like not even like big, huge events like Kaepernick kneeling, like very little things, like small things you say and do. Now all of a sudden 30 owners are saying like, I don't really care how talented you are. Like if you're not in the league, it doesn't hurt me.
But
yeah.
And I don't think that it's necessarily gone the other way. I mean, you can talk about Curt Schilling, but Curt Schilling may be a bit of an outlier because the dude just says some like just outlandish shit. But like you look guys like I was reading today a lot about like the Red Sox and like when they went to the White House, and a lot of their players abstained, but a lot of their players went. And those players have massive contracts. One of them is Chris Sale. The other is JD Martinez, who's a huge Trump dude as well. Also, JD Martinez is also a huge politics shouldn't divide the clubhouse kind of guy. But he's a huge Trump dude, and it didn't affect his contract. I thought that was interesting, mainly because JD didn't choose to opt out. So I would have kind of liked to see how that played out, but yeah, I mean, you don't really see it working the other way in terms of your politics affecting your brand or your money.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like it's one of those things where it's MLB specifically is so almost like uniformly right wing in player beliefs, and I mean outspoken player beliefs. Let me say, like if you see like player commenting on something, it's almost always something reactionary. Like I honestly, like when I saw the Kurt Suzuki thing, I just thought of that Simpsons thing, like don't make me tap the sign. and it's just like, don't ever learn about players' political beliefs. Like
Yeah.
they almost always will disappoint you.
Oh,
It's like,
Unless
yeah.
you're a White Sox fan.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah, no, White Sox have some like pretty solid,
we have some decent
pretty
players.
solid people.
Other
there.
than
Like,
Polka,
insane.
Polka was a dude. It was a real bummer finding out about Polka. He was kind of a fan favorite, fat
is he a
slugger. Yeah, well, his like wife like literally like runs like a TP USA like out like campus like regional thing. So yeah,
I wonder how he gets along with Tim Anderson.
or even
Well, that was-
Giolito. Giolito's like almost a Doolittle like level. Like if
That's
yeah,
wild. His
Yeah.
family's like rich. Like,
Well, they're
like that.
actors.
He came from wealth.
his like uncle like wrote like created Twin Peaks.
Oh, okay.
He's
Well,
actually
I
like
didn't know he got
from
his money.
where
That's
he's
cool.
like from where Trevor Bauer is from, which is really funny.
Hmm.
So
And they
I-
couldn't be
I-
any more similar.
I'm making the call that in 5 or 6 years, whenever Tim Anderson's contract is up, he's going to be the most outspoken player in baseball, because the evidence that we have now is that he's already the most outspoken player in terms of calling baseball out for being the most boring sport on the planet and having a bullshit culture that is literally unwatchable at times.
Yep.
And if the dude can say that, I'm telling you, man, like, he's definitely he's got some wokeness to him. I talked to him firsthand a couple years ago. We had a very intimate experience. I took a picture with him for 30 seconds, and I asked him a question. I asked him what it was like to be the only black dude in the Sox. He looked at me in the eye, shook my hand, and said, "It sucks." And
Good
he
for
did not
him.
give me that A+ elocution answer of, we're all one team. He just said it sucks. It's gonna.
Hey, good for him.
That
Yeah.
dude's gonna break out, and he's gonna be the political star of the league.
Yeah.
I'm a big Tim Anderson guy. I like him a lot.
Yeah. Hell
He's-
yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
fun. And
Yeah.
like I like the way he responds. I'm trying to remember what it was. Like, you guys probably know better than me, but there was that early season sort of like controversy around him that I
Oh,
can't quite
the
remember.
weak ass N word.
Oh yeah, right. That whole
Fucking
thing.
nigga, yeah.
Where he was just like no, you can't. Like I can use the Edward, you can't. And everyone's like, oh well, who's the real racist? And like he sort of got the feeling that Tim Anderson just wanted to be like, you all are, like, you're the real racist.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
I do wish he had called him.
What were you saying?
I know we gotta move on.
Yeah,
I know we gotta move on.
Yeah.
I do wish that he had called him like a white slur, like cracker or honky or something like that. Like,
Yeah, honky's so good.
Cracker's funny because
So
Cracker
good.
kind of has like an edge to the word itself. Like it has hard consonants to it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it like does
yeah.
sound like I understand, like, not to say that it's justified, but like I understand why people are like taken aback when they hear it, because it does have like a bite to the word itself. And
I
like,
love it, man.
yeah,
Favorite
dude,
word.
but man, I've actually
It's a
started
good
calling people crackers on Twitter a lot because it's very funny to me now. Like, because before we move on, like we have
They get really upset.
yeah, we have a writer for The Athletic, for the Hurricanes. Who's a woman, who is like conventionally attractive, and she's very good. She's a good writer. I enjoy following her on Twitter, and I enjoy reading her articles. But like, of course, like she elicits like the worst reply guys on earth, and
Oh, sure.
like. She says a lot of stuff about like guys being racist and being racist idiots and blah blah blah. And of course they're like, well, what did I ever say to make you believe, like I'm not racist? So I just started calling all those guys crackers. Like, been like, shut the fuck up, cracker. Like, so
hard R.
yo, yeah, dude,
I was
hard.
gonna say it has the ER.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got like, you have the same dilemma with Cracker. Like,
Right.
did
Yeah.
you like, my friends can call me Cracker? Like, no one does that, but, like, no, I like it's really funny to throw that back on them though. Like, I love that. I love how like deeply upset people get when they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't remember who it is, but like it's a sort of like irony Twitter adjacent guy who I think is I think he's like a Chinese citizen. Like, I think he lives in China, but he's Chinese, and his pinned tweet is are you like, it's just like, you white L, pretty good. And like he posted a screenshot. I got retweeted into my feed, but like he posted a screenshot. He's like, "This is what happens." Like there's like someone in the DMs. He's like, "Wow, you're being racist in your pinned tweet." Like I'm not racist, but it looks like you are. He's like, "I don't care, cracker. Like get out of my DMs." And they just get so mad.
It's great. It's good. Call everyone crackers on Twitter. It's very funny.
Just post. Just post. Okay, boomer cracker.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you boomer cracker.
Exactly.
I have experience.
A joke bomb. That's okay. Let's move on.
Calling crackers in real life. I almost got suspended in school for it. They told me how would I feel if a white kid called me the N-word. And that was the whole thing. Then the next word, white kids did start calling me that, and I beat them up, and they didn't get in trouble, but I did. But okay, it's cool. Moving on.
Oh man,
yes.
I hate that question though, because it's just like, well, I'd feel totally different because it's not the same thing. But like, if you say that, you get in more trouble.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah. So next topic. Moving on. No, I couldn't think of a good transition.
Now you seem like you're trying to like silence the one POC member of your podcast.
That's all I ever do. Yeah, that's why I have Maurice on, so I can call him by his dead name, and I can and I can.
I'm taking notes, and I have a count of every time I'm silenced by the white man on this podcast. And at the end of this, I'm gonna reveal what the score is.
Hey, it's about learning. It's about calling in, not calling out.
Oh.
So we kind of, we originally were going to devote a little more time to this, but then the Nats did their thing today, and we could not cover that.
How are you gonna ignore that?
Yeah. But as I'm sure everyone knows, Deadspin has passed away unexpectedly. Well, not entirely unexpectedly, I suppose. Following Splinter, probably what was it, a week before? 2 weeks ish?
Something like that.
Yeah. And not getting closed down like Splinter, but experiencing some editorial decisions being made by the corporate ownership group who they've been kind of feuding with for about 3 months now.
Yeah. It's like that parasite that infects the caterpillar and then eats the caterpillar from the inside and then takes it over like a zombie caterpillar.
Yes.
That's essentially what it happened.
Yes. So they all quit their jobs. That's
right.
It was a violation of their CBA, which we might get into in a bit, to have the ownership group making editorial decisions. I believe taking down an article and firing Barry was also a violation of the CBA. And
firing Barry certainly was. I think, because that was not really for cause.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how you would spin that as for cause. So I think that's something they're gonna have to work on.
Yeah.
It's wild. Like the whole thing it's really cool. Like, and I think it's something I've been thinking about how to actually address. But like the whole Barstool thing response to it, right? Where it's just like, oh, these Deadspin writers think they're so important.
Yeah.
Like, but they lost and we get millions of clicks. Like, it's so weird seeing a bunch of people like that who are writers who have to do this all, live this all together. Like, it's so weird to see them see something like this happen and not think like, man, that's powerful. Like, that's really cool. Like, not just the people who had like not so much to lose, but even the people with like families, even the people who like didn't know if they're going to work again, like the permalancers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Everyone just quit because it's like, well, this isn't, I have to make a moral decision.
Yeah. Yeah, like our friend Gabe Fernandez, who's been on the show before, he's going to be on the show again, was a permalancer. Even though he carried a title, I'm pretty sure, of weekend editor. He quit his job with, no health insurance, nothing, I mean, like, I don't even know kind of like if he has anything, like, can even like qualify for like Cobra or anything.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, and what's so cool, and it's such a sacrifice by everybody, but what's so cool about what they did, their last act all together as a staff, why I think it's incredible, is it completely short circuits the financial model of something Hill, whatever private equity firm bought them, because the whole idea,
Beacon Hill, I think.
Great Hill, yeah, whatever. I mean, the business model of doing this sort of thing is to buy up a place, and then essentially you degrade the quality of the you buy an established brand, a brand that people like, then you degrade the quality, but people still are clicking on it. So you're basically making a huge profit because you've cut down costs, but the profits remain the same. And then by the time people wise up that the quality has diminished, you've already made a big chunk of money and you move on. You just sell the thing. Yeah. And so by doing this, they totally short circuit it. They say, hey, just so you know, we're all stepping away. This is no longer us. Everyone needs to know this is no longer the dead spin that you know. And it completely blows up the plan of private equity. I mean, that's how you've absolutely blown up in their face. So I thought it was beautiful and a great. If you have that card to play, it's such a hard card to ask people to play because it requires so much sacrifice. But that's how you disincentivize people from doing the types of things that private equity does. Is just knowing like, oh, if you do this, you're not going to make any money off of us because we're going to blow the thing up ourselves, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not just guesswork, right? Like I think this happens a lot when like a site is taken over or a site sort of shifts management. This happened with The Onion and it turned out we were all wrong about that. Like The Onion is more acerbic than it was under old management. But in 2016, The Onion got bought by someone who had like ties to pro-Hillary groups, and people were like, oh, okay, it's just going to become a Hillary mouthpiece. And we saw a few articles that looked like they were, and then it shifted gears and was different. But like that kind of guesswork is weird. Like it's sort of like, you know, is this thing, you know, is this actually a like an actual change in persona, or is it actual change in character? Or am I just seeing things? Am I just seeing what I want to see? You keep clicking because you know people who write there. You might know people who like you're friends with.
Yeah.
And like it builds like that. Like this is no doubt. Like none of our friends write there anymore. All of the articles are about stuff that the old Deadspin would never cover. The tone is completely off because there's never been any time to make a different tone. It's like so cut and dry. It's like so obvious. Like, you know, what you're doing here is like not what we did before. So don't bother clicking.
Absolutely. And I lost my point. Someone else take over. I got a good Kratom kicked in.
Yeah, I think
Kratom brain.
Hey, Kratom, we'd like to just mention this show is sponsored by Kratom, just nondescriptly. Just do Kratom. I don't care who you buy it from or pay for. You don't even pay for it if you don't want to. just do it. Well, wait, one quick thing I just have to mention. I just found out that there's like an artisanal Kratom grower in Asheville. Like, so gonna have to check that out.
Cool.
But yeah. Anyways, now you give me Kratom brain.
Are you in Asheville?
No, I'm in Durham.
I have a buddy who lives in Asheville.
I'm in Durham, so I'm like 3 hours away. Yeah.
Oh, Blue Devil.
Oh.
Yeah, I could look out the window and see Duke right now, but
I remember what I was going to say. If that's okay, if we have time, because Trevor, you're talking about no one knows. No one knew exactly, kind of like reading tea leaves of what's going to happen when these takeovers happen. And I don't know how. Probably many people haven't heard this, but I know that David Roth went on the Sam Cedar show and had a really interesting thing where he said it was not a definite conclusion that it was going to end this way. They did not know this. Apparently, it all stemmed basically from the intense anger of this owner guy. Like he just has a bad temper. So when they laid down the stick to sports thing, they put out an article or two that didn't necessarily stick to sports or only tangentially, and he just blew up and fired Barry Pacheski on the spot, told him to get the fuck out of my office. So definitely labor violations there. But it's just it was not a set thing. It was and it's insane to think taking the anti-capitalism kind of track here, that it's like, here's a beautiful like media coming together, and all these wonderful writers that we all know and love, and like capitalism is the system where it can all be blown up if one dickhead with a bad temper buys this like wonderful, wild, little kitschy sort of like not kitschy, but a little thing that we all love. Like a certain, like hundreds of thousands of people on the internet love this thing, but if one dickhead buys it, it can be over like that. And like, how is that system efficient or logical, or you know what I mean? Like all the things that capitalism is supposed to be. Humane. How is that?
Certainly not humane. Yeah.
I guess like kind of like what I've been kind of like chewing on is I've kind of I basically I read this. A friend of ours sent me this this article, this long form kind of research piece about the sales effort is like what they talk about, which is just kind of like this like idea that like we have to come up with ways to continue to get people to buy products, because that's literally how our economy works, is just like the guarantee that we're going to keep buying things.
Sure.
And I think that's, you know, why the U.S. is like one of the most powerful countries in the world, is because we just have like an unprecedented ability to like consume things. And so, the main driver of that is advertising, and they kind of get into how advertising has like become just like such a huge amount of production costs of an item. I mean, it's billions and billions of dollars that we spend on just convincing you to spend other billions of dollars. And so I kind of was thinking about this, because they were kind of talking about how advertising is beginning to like kind of fail to reach people, like especially people our age, where, you know, we were kind of raised on advertisements, and we were also subjected to like a lot of like pretty disgusting things in terms of like children can't like tell the difference between like an advertisement and like a TV show or like the truth even. And so like that's definitely warped our brains. Like, I mean, our brains are warped by like we carry like psychic trauma from being exposed to the amount of advertising that we are. But regardless, like we are kind of more savvy to it. But so they kind of were kind of talking about like how people are going to want to start trying to like integrate, like capital is going to want to start integrating advertising into like new outlets. But I was kind of thinking about this like in terms of like something like a Deadspin, who wrote consistently about this idea of like SpawnCon, and we actually talked to Gabe about SpawnCon when he was on. But like, now that capital has become so powerful, and the protections that we like gained in like say like the New Deal era to like the Lyndon Johnson era are just gone completely. Giant capitalistic organizations just own media companies now, and as opposed to like asking a media company to like buy a page of advertising in the paper, now they're just going to start paying people to just write advertising that is presented as journalism. Like, we are literally just going to read infomercials. And I mean, I really see that a lot in things like The Ringer, where, like, that's literally just ads for fucking Avengers movies and Game of Thrones. Like, I mean, it's just... And I don't know exactly how much money gets exchanged, or that's direct. Like, I mean, because I don't want to say that you can't cover something. Just, you know, you can't have a Game of Thrones podcast just because you enjoy Game of Thrones.
Remember their NBA draft guide?
Yes, but but they do open partnerships, brand integrations with sponsors that are also sponsors of the NBA and the teams, and like, so it's just like the whole enterprise is being presented as like this just cohesive unit, and you don't really know, like, you can't, like, who can you trust? Like, you know what I mean? And Deadspin was something that was standing against that and writing about it.
You know, one of the things about SpawnCon and like advertising being baked in and all the stuff you're saying, because you're right. But one of the things I think is like really important about capital at any point in history is that, and especially our current point in history, is that you can't, if you're not doing capital without and this is going to sound like an apology for capital, and it's not. It's just more like a theoretical move. Like, if you're not doing capital with consent of the consumer, you're not doing good capitalism. You're basically either doing like feudalism or some version of like top-down autocracy, neither of which is technically capitalism. Capitalism works because like you yourself consent to want to buy these things in some way or another. And so like something like Deadspin or something like The Ringer. The Ringer's a great example. So like my friend Mike Bauman writes for The Ringer. Super smart dude, very leftist guy. If you ever see any articles about Marxism on The Ringer, usually by him.
I didn't know those existed,
like,
to be honest.
They do, yeah. No, he writes about baseball too. He's a smart dude.
Yeah.
But he's from Crashburn. Like if you know those folks like Bill Bear and that crew.
Yeah.
But he like if you imagine The Ringer as a sort of like site of SpawnCon, you don't just need the people who don't care or want to watch Avengers movies or want to ignore it. You also have to bring in the people who are like naturally skeptical. So like me, for instance, like I'll go read Mike's pieces on the Ringer, and if I see something on the sidebar, I'll click it without really paying too much attention to it. I've effectively like taken myself to The Ringer. I haven't been tricked by some sort of like redirect. I haven't been like, it's not like the sponsored thing shows at the bottom, or it's those websites where you like, like these 10 celebrities are so beautiful you would never believe it now. Like those kind of things, like on like Outbrain
oh,
or
boobs,
whatever.
Boobs, hell yeah.
Yeah, right. But like you're not being tricked, you're agreeing to it. And that's the trick, right? And as people become more savvy, that trick becomes harder and harder and harder. And so like sites like Deadspin have to exist to produce, or sites like Deadspin as imagined by this media group, this finance group, have to exist to give you that buy-in. Like everyone's just going to believe the best of Deadspin, even if the content suffers. We'll just assume the pieces by the people we like are still pretty good and keep going. I mean, that's all part of that saying, like, yeah, I accept what you're going for.
That's true. I mean, that's like how like fucking like Atlantic or Warner Brothers or whoever had like Rage Against the Machine. They could be like, oh, look, like we have Rage Against the Machine. You can trust us. Like now go buy.
That's right. Yeah.
Now go buy the fucking new Collective Soul album. Like.
Yeah.
And we all did, right? Like we're all big soul heads here.
Sure, Trevor. It is. Yeah, I don't know entirely how it all fits. Like, I don't know if I could consistently say that there was something like Capital was like, oh, look at Deadspin, like they're fucking taking us down, which it was why I do like that explanation a lot more that you have in that. It's like, oh, like it kind of gives us like some plausible deniability to be like, oh, well, there's like still free press. Like, look at this free press. But like they're like constantly undermining it at any moment, and I mean, and it's obviously like entering higher levels. Like, I mean, the New York Times has just like has been caught like basically just like selling things in their editorial section, like but much worse things like things related to the Iraq War, or like things like that. But yeah,
of course. And I think like good.
Go ahead.
No, I think you're right. Like it's one of those things, like if you imagine, like if you just kind of like imagine what it would be like to have something sold to you without you feeling like you played a role in it. It would be as if like you were walking down the street and someone were like, hey, come in here. There's chips here. You have to buy chips. You can pick any chip you want, but you have to buy it. Like, you're not going to do it. Like, if you've ever been sold like that in a city on something, like, someone being like, hey, come in here now. Like, you got to have these things. Almost always you're going to walk by it. But like, if you could trick yourself into thinking that you went in there on your own, like, I hear this place has good chips, or like, this place has like the best hot dogs in the city. I got to check them out. Like, that trick is what it's all about. It's all about the sort of like plausible deniability we have psychologically to say, like, no one sold me. Like, I did this all on my own.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like kind of another insult to all of our intelligence when this whole debacle is that like other Deadspin writers have talked about how like their pitch to this guy was like, look, like we would like to say that we put our like truth above power. We speak truth to power, and we just like we don't give a fuck. We're just like whatever. But no, like we want this job, which means we have to make money for this website, and we will do it. Like that's we accept that, and we're telling you, dickhead billionaire, we're telling you the best way for this site to make money is to let us continue to write the things we were writing, because that makes money, because people like to read those things and they will come to this website. But this guy, it seems like doesn't, and I think this goes, I think that if you probably polled billionaires, most of them would feel this way too, where they're like, no, people aren't smart enough. Like we have to bash them over the head. Like we have to trick them, because we have to either trick them or lead or basically shove it in their face, because they can't be trusted to like good quality content. I can't just, what do you mean? I can't make good content. People are going to come to it. No, we have to show them the fucking State Farm ad. Shove it down their throats. It
costs me too much money to make it, because I have to pay this guy like a fucking month-long stipend to research his story, or woman, or whoever, this person. And I don't, and it's just one really long article as opposed to 5 blog posts. And yeah, so like, I mean, I mean, of course, like a predatory finance capital firm is just like, no, bring in the dickhead that's going to get ratioed to write about how Kevin Durant should have gotten his ass beat by Draymond or whatever.
But also, an important aspect to that is they're thinking that it won't matter, because like, no, people are sheep. People are morons, and they won't know the difference. They can't tell the difference, because if they could, how am I a billionaire? The only way that I've made money in my life is tricking and scamming and being a shithead. So obviously people are dumbasses, because if they weren't, how am I rich? Like that's a good point. Like,
that makes sense. Model. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, it's easy to feel like good about it's easy to feel good about this. I'm trying to think of how to say this, because no one feels good about Deadspin ending, but like, it's easy to feel like, oh, like, so what this shows us though is that we're no fools. Like we totally, we do see the difference. We do see how this is different. But like, I mean, I wrote for SB Nation for a long time, and like I have a lot of friends still at SB Nation. Like, they do still put out good stuff. I think Spencer Hall writes some of the funniest stuff out there when he does still do stuff for SBN. But like, SB Nation wouldn't let me publish a piece on Rob Nyer when he was working there, because like it was mean to Rob Nyer, right? And like, oh, this doesn't reflect the brand correctly. Well, what doesn't reflect the brand correctly is actually that you want Rob Nyer there so you can get more sponsors there, because he's a pull, and you're worried that I'm going to offend him, and I'm not a pull. And so that kind of thing that happens there is so much harder to diagnose. And I'm just using myself as an example. I certainly wasn't going to make anyone millions one way or the other. But like, there are higher profile versions of this. Like, SB Nation lost Grant Brisbee basically because of this. I assume, based on what happened, like they could have kept him, but Grant seems much happier at the Athletic with like people he likes working with, as opposed to none of his friends who all got laid off.
Yeah.
But like, the other thing is like Deadspin's such an easy place to notice this happening. It's such an easy place to say like, these, like, they're the finance guys, they're the writers, here's like the problem. And like, really, finance capital is probably irritated at all of this, like the people who do that. But yeah, I bet they're
capital's miffed.
I bet finance capital is miffed. But just move on. There's plenty of places they can kind of tweak, and probably I don't try to think pessimistically about this stuff, because it's not helpful. But like, if you do want to think pessimistically about it, the problem is that it's just going to be the sites that are explicitly political that are going to fall apart, because those are the sites that can't fit into the new model. Like, you take a Deadspin and you say like, okay, now you're just going to put out SpawnCon and clickbait and like stuff that we know makes money. And Deadspin says, no, we still have to put out our stuff. That's all our readers come here for. And they'll be like, well, I guess then we're just going to nuke the site because we don't need the competition.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it starts with expressly political, I don't mean to interrupt. If it starts with expressly political, like that's so easy to bleed into. I mean, because basically the whole thesis of this show is sports is political, and you can't separate sports and politics. It's impossible to do. So I mean, and you're right in the fact that you're right in that like Deadspin is such a clear-cut case of like it's such a distinctive house style that you know when it goes away. But what is probably going to happen more and more, and is probably even more insidious, is stuff like maybe we don't criticize we don't criticize Adam Silver. Like we bury a story on Adam Silver. Maybe we don't criticize James Harden for whatever reason. And that sort of editorial decisions that you'll just never see as very insidious.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the whole idea behind of these places that are so behind editorial walls. Like, good luck figuring out
the black box.
Right. Yeah. Who edited it? Like, who made the decision? Who did these things? Like, I was allowed to publish my Rob Nair piece on my own blog, which was great. But like, I mean, come on, like that's how many people are going to be like, how many people are going to be let to do that by editors? Like my editor was very sympathetic to me. Yeah. It's not like a lot of people are going to be like, oh, can I post this? It's probably against the NDA, but I'd love to do that. Like, I'd say no.
Yeah, on Medium. You can go to Medium.
So, like, kind of my last thought before we move into the last bit of discussion is I also want to point out, you mentioned The Athletic, and I kind of mentioned them earlier, but I want to point out that the subscription model will not save journalism. Like, it never has. It never has. I don't know if you know this, but the subscription model has been part of journalism since the beginning.
Name one example.
Checkmate.
But it's never worked. It's not enough. And we have to come up with. I mean, imagining a future. We always try to say, kind of on the show, is like, we have to think of a solution. You can't just fucking bitch about things.
Yeah. That seems right.
And I mean, there has to be some sort of fund that we create like a creator fund or something, like, I mean, it's happened in other countries. We used to do things for the arts during the New Deal, where we just paid people to fucking go paint buildings or do whatever, go make stuff. And I think that's kind of the last part of that article that I kind of mentioned before I went on my big thought was that the advertising effort, the sales effort, creates this disappreciation of art because people begin to distance themselves from the work of like everyday artists, because it's bullshit. Like, I mean, my wife is a graphic designer, and it's very rough for her to have to do things like just make this disposable stuff that didn't mean anything to her, really. I mean, it means things to her because she likes to do her work but I mean, it does like kind of hurt her psychically to know that like this was to kind of hurt someone, possibly, so yeah. I mean, I think that we just need to like kind of think of that going forward, is that these things are important, and we need to think of ways that aren't like, I mean, the subscription model will not break the giant media machine that has become our lives. Like,
no, you're absolutely right.
Very quick thing, just a minute, and people. I mean, also for people, like, don't think there was some golden age that we got away from as far as profitability. Newspapers have their whole history not really ever made money. The difference was that kind of dickhead billionaires used to run newspapers, and they would run them for prestige. They would run them to be like, I have a prestigious newspaper. Like these people, the fortunes were not made through the newspapers, generally. So that model's not going to work because you're not going to get altruistic billionaires. That's not going to work. But also, it's not insurmountable because we haven't lost anything because newspapers have never really been all that profitable. And once we get away from that sort of idea that news needs to make money, information, proliferation of ideas and information to the populace needs to be profitable, then we can possibly expand our horizons a little bit.
Yeah. And I think like the last thing I would say is like the other thing to watch out for, and this is just maybe a hobby horse of mine, but the other thing to watch out for is like thinking that like, we could go back to the New Deal, or like maybe one day we can be like more like we were in those days. Like Keynesian economics is super interesting, and it's very interesting the way Roosevelt used it, and like I'm all for another New Deal. I'm certainly for a Green New Deal, all the stuff that is good and green and hopefully economic for sure.
Cut Trevor off. He's a revisionist.
Your camera's breaking up. Your camera.
This is a tanky podcast, bro.
Hey, I'm about to make a tanky point.
Okay.
But basically, so like the problem with getting excited about Keynesianism is that Keynesianism is just it works on capitalist logic, and it's capitalist logic no one's going to go back to, which is basically like the basic point of Keynes's point, and what the New Deal does is it says, hey, look, like it doesn't matter what you're doing, if it's productive or if it does anything, we're just going to pay you for it, and you're going to do it. So like the Keynes could suggest a job wherein, like Adam is I'm worried about Adam because he doesn't have a job or something. So I'm gonna hire you to dig holes on a beach for 40 hours a day. And what you do is you dig a big hole, 40 hours a week, excuse me. You dig a big hole and then you fill it back up with sand, and then you dig the same hole and you fill it back up with sand. And at the end of the day, you get a paycheck. Doesn't really matter if you did anything, you get a paycheck, and that spurs the economy on. Well, it works in a manner of speaking, insofar as the economy gets spurred on. But I think we can all think of reasons why that's not great, right? Like immediately, it's sort of like, you think about like the good stuff the New Deal did with all the infrastructure and the arts and everything, like for sure. But Keynesian economics is still all about taking labor and transmuting it into money. And like, if you want to go back to that as opposed to our current system, fine, but it's not particularly materialist to think that we even can. And so like, I agree with everything you're saying. I just also want to caution, like, thinking that somehow like we're going to get back to art for art's sake without, making a very different world for art, might be setting ourselves up for a little bit of disappointment.
All I can say, everything you just said, revisionism. Do you see?
No, Mr. Lenin, no.
Revisionism.
I don't think Lenin would have liked the New Deal.
I'm looking at my. You guys can't see it, but I'm pushing my Lenin lithograph that I have that my dad got me he found it at Goodwill. Here, I'll show it to you.
Oh yeah,
nice. That's a nice get. Oh, yeah, nice. There it is. Nice.
Very nice. Yeah. So, Trevor, 8 years of gulag for that. Digging holes and filling them up, since you seem so fond about that idea.
No,
that's a great point. But yeah. So I guess kind of talking about art, the world of art. I thought that was kind of a good way to maybe go into what we kind of wanted to finish on. Since if our watchers, listeners don't know, Trevor hosts a video game podcast.
I do, yeah.
He's unfortunately a gamer. We've been hiding this from you the entire time.
I'm sorry. No, it's Marxist a game. I will, it's that old anime appraiser tweet. People still remember that tweet. But no, yeah, it's a fun podcast. You should go listen to it. It's called No Cartridge.
Very good.
If you like, I was actually just gonna say if you likes Southpaws, you'll love No Cartridge, and I realize there's no real reason I should say that. I don't know if there's any connection. I talk about sports sometimes. I do talk about sports sometimes. I said I'd look up some
You
episodes. I totally
employ
forgot.
like
But,
two sports writers too to like work
I
for
do.
you.
Yeah, John Bernhardt, who is most known for his work at SI. I don't know if he wrote for Sports Illustrated, but he definitely wrote for Vice Sports
SB
and
for sure.
Yeah.
And
then Pat Dubuque, who's known for his work at B Pro and a little bit at SB Nation. Yeah, they both work for me now.
Doesn't Mark Norman work for you too?
Sometimes. I think I've had Mark do something once or twice.
Yeah.
I was talking to Pat. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to Pat the other day about like suggestions for the site, and one of them was get Mark and John to work full time for you. I was like, oh. Suggestions that will work.
I hear if you get
that
some
I can
private,
actually sell.
I hear if you get some private equity involved, like that might
go on.
That might be exactly what you need. But no, yeah. So I kind of wanted to spend the last 15 minutes or so, chatting. Our favorite baseball game, MVP Baseball 2005. We kind of, I've kind of like. I think I remember one time you were talking about like ideas for the show. I was like, oh man, you should talk about MVP because I have legitimately probably played that game. I probably played that game from 2005 to like 2013 at least 4 to 5 hours a week. Like, which is like I mean, can you think of any other game on earth that like could really do that? You know,
longevity.
Yeah, we kind of, I'm sure everybody has kind of heard, there's like a pretty vigorous modding community for MVP, which is kind of interesting, because in a lot of ways, it's like, I mean, not in a lot of ways, I mean, in pretty much every way, it's the only baseball game really honestly made since 2013, other than the show, and then like a bunch of really crappy 2K games. So like kind of like I guess Trevor, like kind of like what do you think it is about sports games? Because like I know you don't really cover them a lot on your show. Like
not a lot, but I play them.
What does it mean kind of to art, and like what do you think it mean? Why do you think like MVP like resonate with people so deeply?
I mean, I think so. Anytime there's like a good sports game, right? What I found that's weird about sports games is that they don't actually work the same way that like typical games do, right? Where like if you have a good, I don't know if do you guys play video games at all?
A little bit. Yeah.
What do you play, Cliff?
I play sports games. That's about it, though.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So like, if you ever played like, if you've ever played video games, you probably at some point like been at a friend's house and like someone's suggested like Halo or whatever, right? Like a first-person shooter, you probably played at one point or another. First-person shooters, when they're good because the level design's good, because the guns feel good, because the player movement is excellent, because like the balance between everything works. Like there's a number of things that go into it. It's very difficult to make a good game, but you can guess what they are, right? With sports games, it's almost always about feel, even to the point that like one of the most popular sports games ever is Rocket League, which is a game about cars that play soccer.
It's a fun game. It's very fun. Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, the thing about like the thing no one ever talks about with Rocket League, people say it's fun. People say, oh yeah, like you'll have so much fun. Like it's cars playing soccer. Like what could be not fun about that? And like no one ever talks about the fact that like there's actually a ton that could be not fun about that. And the main thing that I think a lot of people would find not fun about it is that it doesn't sound like a sports game, but it feels like a sports game. Like when you play it, it unequivocally feels like a sports game. And bad sports games do not feel like sports games. Like when Madden, when you're playing Madden and it feels like very kind of like strange or glossy or like not like football, that doesn't feel like a sports game. When like the people complain about 2K or the most recent WWE game, like
yes.
those feel like, it doesn't feel like sports. It feels like something like just this side of sports. Like it's like Uncanny Valley kind of. And I think that's why it's the same reason why like people still like ice hockey, that NES game, or like Griffey. Like,
oh yeah, Griffey is also. I still play that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, MVP just feels like baseball.
Yes.
Which is what people say about the show. I haven't played the show. I should at some point,
The
but
show honestly
I know I'll end up
stinks.
playing.
It stinks. I bought it.
Oh, that's a shame.
I finally got it because I kind of was like, I was like, well, like I haven't played baseball games, and I just can't really get into Out of the Park because I'm a programmer, so I stare at fucking data all day. I don't want to go stare at it more. And
Fair enough.
and I was playing MVP, and you kind of mentioned like this like feeling like a sports game. Where the other part about Out of the Park is you kind of want like to like feel like you're making some baseball plays. Like you want to organize the team.
Mm-hmm.
You want to organize a team
Yeah.
into a fun, which MVP does incredible. Like, I mean, the load screens work super fast.
Yes.
Like, it's not so complicated that you're like sitting here like tabulating your fucking spreadsheet while you play the game. Like, in a way, kind of the show gets. Like, the show like makes you do like arbitration, like things like things you don't want to do. Like I was joking with my buddy.
Yeah, why would you want to do that? Yeah.
I was joking with the guy I work with the other day. I was like, you know what you want from a sports game is you want to turn on the franchise mode. You want to make three absurd trades for like the three guys that are like your favorite players on earth, and then you just want to fucking play like the next 3 years and not like ever touch the GM mode again.
That's so interesting. I also in my like preview of it, I got to thinking about how increases of technology it has mostly served in sports games to give you more options to be an owner, basically. That's all the energy is spent to like, hey, don't you want to be in charge? Like, don't you want, like, I want to be the guy that hits the ball. I want to be the ball hitter.
A lot of people. I mean, like Fangraphs, B-Pro, everything. Like, and like, I love baseball prospectus. I loved writing for baseball prospectus because they let me write. Like, I wrote a piece basically that was just like the labor theory of value for baseball. Like, the editorial, especially under Sam Miller when he was still there, like, and under Patrick, of course, too. But under everyone else as well. Like, they're just like, they're cool with you writing anything. This is not against them. But like all that data stuff, like everything that's been like datafied, especially about baseball, has made people just be like, yeah, I want to be the GM. I want to be like the new Red Sox GM who used to write at B-Pro. Like, I want to be that guy. And I think like, in defense of Out of the Park, in defense of like Football Manager, I think that appeals to people who like Sims or who would do well playing like Paradox games or something like that, like slow burn, like big
Paradox is like
kind
Crusader
of stuff.
Kings, right?
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
And like, or Europa Universalis or something like that, like big, wide scale strategy games, 4X, what they call them. Out of the Park isn't a 4X game, but like, it's not too far off. And I think like there's a big difference between people who want to play something like that, and they could be the same people, but like the impulse to play something like that is much different than the impulse of being like, man, I want to feel what it would be like to like really be in control of my team winning this game. Like, I want to be on the field. I want to hit the ball. I want to pitch. I want to play. Actually, no one ever wants to actually play a defensive play in a video game, but imagine someone got that right. But like, yeah, I mean, it's like it's different. It's not those games.
Honestly, that's the thing with like MVP is like the fielding is actually kind of fun. Like, it only gives you just enough.
Ever had in a baseball game.
What's up?
What is?
MVP is the best fielding baseball game I've ever played in my life.
Other than honestly, even fucking Ken Griffey Jr. You mentioned that. Like, that is a fun game. They give you just enough.
That is a fun game to field.
Yeah, that's just like it's just enough. It's just enough that if it's like a hard hit liner or something, you have to make the reaction play. And if you don't, it's over. You fucked it up. And it's not a lot of time like wasting around. But like, the show literally has a mode where you sit there and it just sims you to the point when a grounder gets hit to you, and then you field it and you throw it and then you move on. It's like
sounds terrible.
Yeah.
It's just like it's insane.
Well, it's interesting because you guys are kind of dragging me a little bit here because you talk about like
never.
You're saying how nobody wants a sports game for the GM mode and like the intricacies of it, but that's actually the things I look forward to year in and year out. Is like these little things that you can do with like the GM mode and like I don't know how sometimes it kind of expands. But one thing that's really interesting though is that they've played around with it a lot, like with having like a team budget, controlling like the popcorn prices at the ballpark.
That's kind of fun. That is
having
fun.
like sponsors. But the thing that so they focus on that, but the thing that they haven't like at all addressed is like when you have a player and you like the player side of the contract model, you know, like there's obviously playing the game, but like when you're in like your career mode, it's literally it's just playing games. Like the when you like give when you receive the contract, that's like a little that's such a benign part of the game that it's very clear that they completely just missed it. So like the office side of the sports game is like completely focused on the owner and the GM part, which sucks.
Yeah.
You'd almost want like.
I don't want to disparage you, Maurice. I don't want to disparage you or anybody else who likes that's part of it. Definitely. I just think it's interesting how so much effort has been put into improving that side of things, but we're still, there's a reason people are playing MVP baseball 2005.
Dude, they're like straight up bugs. Yeah, like there are straight up bugs in the show, like in the fielding and stuff. And I have played, like I just said, like probably thousands of hours of MVP. I've literally played an entire Dynasty mode, all 99 years. I played probably 80 of the games each season. Like I played all the way through. Like I have played that game more than anything.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great game. Nuts. And I don't think I've ever fucking hit a bug. Like that was like, wow, that's not what would happen in a baseball game. Like, maybe like some weird stuff or something happened, but it was never like the show where like all of a sudden like the ball lands behind your head or something.
Well, that's the thing. Like when I'm playing the show, I have to like adjust the sliders just to like the option sliders for like the fielding and like how good the computer is. I have to adjust all those things just to compensate for how bad the game is. Like I basically I turn fielding and throwing errors off. Because if you don't, like they make like the game will make enough errors on its own to compensate for the fielding errors being turned off, you know. But Trevor, did you ever play the bigs?
No, is that the one in the
NBA Jam but baseball?
Okay, no, I've never played that. I was thinking of backyard baseball. I think that was another one.
That's also a game people fucking love too, because it just it feels good to play.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say like I feel like arcade sports games are they're obviously a niche in their own right, but I think that there definitely is a good way to do it, and there's a good way to do it to where like it still feels like a sports game, you know, kind of like what you were saying. But the Bigs is like a wonderful example of like an arcade sports game that did not feel like a sports game at all. And it was just really bad.
I thought Blitz was that way too.
Was the Bigs one where you could like punch guys?
Yes.
Yeah, I played that.
You can in MVP too, though.
Yeah, there are fights in MVP. Yeah, there are. You can charge them out. Yeah, you can charge them out.
Okay.
So before we go out, like what were your like when you assembled an MVP team? What was your top 3 starters? What were like? I mean, like obviously not.
I gotta look at the rosters. Hold on.
Mine. I'll start. Mine were Scott Kazmir, Ben Sheets,
very good,
and Johan Santana.
Yeah.
You fucking tear the league up, dude. Ben Sheets had that huge 10-6 curveball. Johan Santana had those 2 changeups. Scott Kazmir had a deadly slider and like a 99-mile-per-hour fastball. Yeah. In my dimension of MVP baseball, Scott Kazmir never had those injuries. He became one of the greatest pitchers to ever live. I also think I had Rocco Baldelli like as my starting center fielder for the Sox, like after
just
for many years.
Absolute king in 2005.
Yeah, I loved him. Yeah. What about you? What about you, Maurice?
Remembering some guys.
I had to think, like, you got to remember when I was playing MVP, I was young. I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. I was just getting into baseball. So I was, I know I definitely like kept Burley on the White Sox for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think, and it was like Burley, definitely Santana. I think the other guy, was Roger Clemens in that game?
Yes. Yeah. But not for very long. Yeah, he wouldn't stay for very long.
Astros era.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that was
he was in that game.
That was the worst part about MVP is they never made another one after we won the World Series.
Yeah,
we never got the game for when we won the World Series.
I know.
Like that's the worst part. We were robbed. We were robbed of a game where we won the World Series.
It was awful. That's the real White Sox curse right there.
Yeah, you ended this game. How dare you?
Yeah, so Roger Clemens I think was another guy that I got. Yeah. But I always got Rivera, and what is this guy named? This guy that comes out of the bullpen.
You have to give me more than that.
You gotta narrow it down.
Yeah, that's not enough for you?
No.
God damn it.
Bullpen guy.
God damn it. I don't remember, but when it comes to me, I'll shoot it to you.
Nate, who did you always enjoy throwing with? Because the pitching is like legitimately one of my favorite parts of the game. Like it's very fun.
Oh yeah, the little that was awesome. 2003 was the height of my Cubs fandom. I had eyes for no one but the Cubs, so it was obviously Zambrano, Wood, Pryor.
Mark Pryor was a fucking beast in that game. Yeah,
yes,
he really should be.
Yeah, he was a beast. Yeah. Trev?
I would go. I'm looking through. I can't remember any of the ones I picked when I played. I was like, when I was younger, I was. It took me a long time to get into sports because like I thought they were like for people. I thought they were for jocks. You know, like the nerd jock dichotomy was very real when I was in high school.
Look at us.
I played sports in high school. Fuck you, Nate.
But yeah, like I didn't think I liked sports, and it took me a really long time to get into them. But I'm looking at the list because I love thinking about these old games. Because one of my favorite things I did in baseball, and his Twitter makes me sad. Ken Tremendous' Twitter makes me sad now because it's so normie and not funny. But going back and reading all the old Fire Joe Morgan posts.
Yes.
If you haven't actually done that, like going through the archive and reading those are the funniest baseball writings. And you just get like so attached to particular people. Like Johan Santana is one of their guys. Ben Sheets is one of their guys. But like I'm looking through these names and I'm thinking like, who are my guys in this? And I think I would go Brandon Webb, Johan Santana. Yeah, right.
He had that sinker.
Brandon Webb.
He had the sinker.
Oh, he was so good.
Yeah,
he was just so good, and then he just got hurt.
Yeah,
and I probably would go Webb, Santana, and Kerry Wood, because Kerry Wood is a starter.
Yeah,
it's just so filthy.
Oh man, Brandon Webb, I forgot about him. I used to love that guy. I always loved the sinker ballers.
Let's remember some guys.
We did do it. All right. In remembrance of Deadspin, we're going to end it with that. Remembering some MVP 2005 guys.
Wonderful.
This one goes out to you, Roth. This one goes out to everyone else at Deadspin. I know we're gonna miss you guys. So
you are guys that we're gonna remember. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah, no. I guess
giving me a lot to think about.
We should mention before we get off. So we're gonna have a couple more guests hopefully coming up in the next few weeks. Trevor kicked it off. I'm very glad you got to come. I had a shitload of fun.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah.
Do I follow y'all on Twitter? I think so, right?
Do
I not?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know you're my contact. I can look in but like you should say what your Twitters are now. This would be a good time to plug them.
Yeah. Well, they're actually all of ours are below on the screen on the actual on the screen.
Man, I don't follow both of you, and you both follow me. I just fixed that.
Jeez.
Sorry about that.
Canceled.
Please don't cancel me.
So we're gonna have a few more guests, but it's definitely gonna culminate in December 7th. We're doing a special stream Saturday morning
on Pearl Harbor Day.
Is that Pearl Harbor? Oh shit! I didn't remember. The day
not really. I don't know why I remember, so I don't feel bad.
Well, it's supposed to live in
not like I had
infamy.
any really
it's
connections.
Cancel. It's cancel it.
But yeah. So we're doing a special stream Saturday morning. Probably around it's gonna probably start around 11. We have some friends. I'm gonna be up in DC. Me, Nate, hopefully maybe Maurice, and Gabe Fernandez of Deadspin. Of the real Deadspin. He's gonna come down for we're pre-gaming for the Illini Maryland basketball game at Maryland. Gabe covers Maryland, huge Maryland fan. So we're gonna do a 4 hour spectacular. We got some guests planned to drop in. All the DC podcasting elites will be there. We have some bits planned. There's going to be gambling. There's going to be fashion advice. There's going to be astrology. There's going to be comedy. There's going to be
that sounds good.
Modded versions of NBA Jam. Trevor, you're invited. If you want to come to DC,
am I?
Yeah, you can come in. You can come game with us.
December 7th.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get off of the many memorials that I'm slated to go to as the one person who still remembers Pearl Harbor Day. For some reason. No, that sounds fun. I'll see if I can make it down. It's not too far. But
we're doing some gaming.
Yeah, Maryland, Illinois, a match that in football season, right, since we're in the thick of it, sets terror into anyone's heart who has to watch it.
It's true.
But in basketball, a lot more fun.
Yes, Nate and I were there for the triumphant win of Illinois over Maryland at Madison Square Garden, at the Garden, the mecca of basketball. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm kind of terrified, honestly, to go to Maryland Stadium because they were fairly cruel just in Madison Square Garden. So I can only imagine.
They're wild. They're
a surly bunch.
Ohio State game. Ohio State's very tame because I feel like they don't have a pro sports team, so it's kind of like the basketball arena kind of takes on a pro atmosphere. It's kind of like a little more reserved. I've taken my family out. We're having a nice time. I've gone to a Maryland game against Northwestern, like doormat Northwestern, and it's wild. They're wild.
Okay.
Like, it will not be.
Sounds good.
Friendly territory. Yeah.
Nate and I will be wearing the jackets again this year. I bought a new.
We will be antagonizing.
Oh,
we will be provoking.
Literally, a 10-year-old child told me to sit the fuck down at the MSG game. So I can only imagine.
Nice.
I might have to carry a weapon. I'm just hoping
take it out on the kid.
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe
like,
Gabe will at least like maybe mitigate them while we run or something. So that stream is getting
depends on how nice you are to Maryland.
So we have that stream planned. That is going to be an incredible amount of fun. I hope everybody wants to come join in. We plan on getting the chat going, like all that kind of stuff. Hopefully,
nice.
I do want to try, depending on where Gabe's feet are at. I would like to hopefully, or what's happening with Deadspin, and we might try to organize something to maybe at least get get some bills paid if that gets needed to do so.
Nice.
Yeah. So other than that, make sure to go check out Trevor. He has a Patreon. It's Patreon No Cartridge, right? Like patreon.com.
Yeah, patreon.com No Cartridge.
No
That's
Cartridge.
Right.
Yeah. I listened to an episode.
Yeah, no, check that out.
Yeah, I listened to an episode, kind of prep to get used to your style, and
which I mean was just like, this is exactly what I do on the podcast. I don't have any differences.
Well, yeah, because I only really like I'm in chats with you and I've talked to you before, but like I never really listened to like what you actually sound like. So I went and listened to one. I really enjoyed it. It was like one about like what is wasting time. It was kind of a philosophical question. You guys talked about.
Thanks.
Was it Night? What was it the game called? Moon Knight? No, Deep Night. the side scroller dungeon
I looked it
crawler
up too.
thing.
Yeah.
Something Night. Anyways,
It probably is something Night. It's not Night in the Woods. It's,
no,
long
it's the Australian
game,
guys. The Australian guys made it.
Dead Cells. Dead Cells? No, not Dead Cells.
No.
It's something Night.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Hollow Knight.
Hollow Knight. Yes.
Sorry, I got confused because I was thinking of NIGHT.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I thought the entire time too, and then I looked it up.
Hollow Knight's great. Yeah.
It was a great discussion of like kind of just like what.
Thank you.
Yeah, what wasting time means, and like how you should waste some time every once in a while, and how capitalism makes you feel like you can't waste time.
I think like
really
I'm glad you like that. That's good to hear. I'm trying to. You hear it here first, folks. I'm gonna try and scale back a little and start doing some more solo episodes. So sounds like that might be a good one.
Yeah. Also, read Trevor's article about going to grad school, which made me decide that I wasn't going to take the GRE anymore. So
you and Brian, good. That's pretty solid.
Yeah. So
they Street Fight guys had me on at their Philly show too.
Yeah,
they didn't even record it, but I did get to guest host. And a lot of it was Brian saying that I had basically been responsible for Street Fight, which is like, not true, but something that I will happily take credit for.
He'll gladly give credit to anyone but himself for that show. So
So
you have to remind
Brett's
him.
the same way.
Yeah. No, they're awesome. That's actually also like a little thing is it sounds like in a few months Brian and I and some other people are going to be reprising Shocktober, but with sports shock jocks. So
it's pretty cool.
So it's gonna be if you liked Shocktober, I'm very excited to do it. Brian is bringing us on to explain all the parts about why the sports takes are bad. Well, he takes care of the radio stuff. So I have been delving into Jim Rome lore today, all day instead of working my job.
And how are you doing? Are you still standing? Is everything?
Dude, I did not realize the lore involved with Jim Rome. There is pages. There's an entire forum of Jim Rome lore. Like, it's very serious.
That's wild.
It's serious stuff. But I was trying to tell Brian, I was like, Brian, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do like sports takes for like Jim Rome or like discuss his sports takes, because he literally never talks about actual sports. He just like, it's just like a it's like a premise, to start like have callers shit talk each other. So so that'll be fun. Yeah, so we got a lot of exciting projects. I'm trying to plan some sort of live event. We're kind of trying to aim it for like that same March time. Cool. Something around hopefully the basketball tournament is kind of like what we're thinking. So
nice.
So
I'm gonna keep my eyes out for it. That's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff.
So until next week, just make sure to subscribe on YouTube. It will give you alerts when we go live. Check out Trevor. Just check him out on Twitter if you don't got $5.
Yeah, I'm at Hagelbond. That's where I usually hang out.
So
we have fun there.
Yeah. Well, until next week, thanks everybody, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Ride, that's what it feel like. Ride, this can't be real life. Ride, that's what it feel like. Travel around the world for the picture of my girl. In my wallet, in my pockets, about to pick her up a pearl. Cause I miss her, I'm sipping this elixir. Surrounded by Stephanies, Jennies, and Melissas. Once they hear the songs, they need me to bounce. But now I'm not a dog, I tell them leave me alone. Kinda on the edge, but I'm holding on. Cause every city's getting rocked, I'm a rolling stone. But after the show, you got me chasing texts, playing the cards you were dealt. That's why I'm placing bets. Cause you're my ace in the hole, the play for my soul. Got me full, clean the dishes, scraping the bowl. At first, I ain't take it serious, but hey look, I mean shit, this all started over Facebook. It's unexpected, but that's how love do. Cause now you love me, and I love you. I just want you to know. Are your eyes still green, girl? Yep. Smile. Your whole being is beautiful. I just want you to know. Are your eyes still green, girl? Yep. Smile. Whole being is beautiful. I just want you to know. Why wait until tomorrow? Take care of you today. Introduce you to my circle, then square you away. Like the homie Proswell, he dwells up in L.A. Diego, if you say so, then strut to the bay. Now my time's getting cut back because of the rough rap. Yep, you take care of your son, you know I love that. Baby daddy drama, yep mama, I'm here for that. He's full of hot air and you venting, I got an ear for that. Cause you're the dopest while I promote and focus. You're making magic happen, voila, and hocus pocus. I can see you in my future, hope you're listening. The apple of my eye with the 20/20 vision. From afar and from a distance, know you make a difference. Appreciate your assistance and everything you're giving. Supporting my role in hip-hop, but do this till the shit flops. That's why you're racing through my mind with no pit stops.